Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to today introduce Capture, a collaborative center between 4 universities and institutes. My name is Korneel Rabaey, I'm the CTO of Capture. So, what are we working on? Within Capture, we focus on 3 main themes: water fit for use, plastics to resource, and CO2 to product. And we work on these themes through collaborations with researchers across Flanders and internationally. So the motto of Capture is "Together we become circular." It is all driven by excellent science, but by working closely together with companies, we hope to increase the success rate of turning good ideas, excellent science, into implementations. Besides focus on research, we also focus on teaching, particularly lifelong learning, and on valorization. I'll explain that later. Now, how large is Capture? As a collaborative center at this moment, we have 4 partners in Flanders, which besides Ghent University is the University of Antwerp, VITO, and the VUB. We have 3 pipelines: water, CO2, and plastics, which have 14 programs. So altogether we're talking about 300 researchers that are involved and over 100 companies that we closely work with. A bit of history. The original idea for setting up Capture originated at the Faculty of Bioscience Engineering in the 2014 period. A platform for collaboration on water was generated, fully industry funded, and over the years the focus expanded. I will not go into much details, but in 2017 we officially launched, when also Europe, Flanders and other partners awarded as a fund to build our own center. Now, as I mentioned, what are we focusing on? Turning excellent science into reality. From our end, the key focus is on this pillar 1 that you see here. So on the top you see the so-called technology readiness levels, with 1 being very basic science concepts, 9 being successfully implemented technologies. And we, for our research, mainly focus on this pillar 1, getting basic research to, for example, a pilot scale, to a level that industry can start taking it up. Now, you cannot do that just by focusing on research. You do need to have attention for valorization. How do you work together with companies and stakeholders? And you have to link it to training. If you want to create a new circular economy model in your area, you also need professionals to work there. Now, very briefly about the center. So we have been awarded an accelerator with funding of the agencies that you see below, support from Ghent, IIC, Ghent, the Flemish government, European funding and the province. And this has allowed us to build a 7,000 square meter facility. The top 2 floors are for businesses, spin-off companies, R&D, and the lower 3 floors are really the R&D center where, for example, university researchers are sitting. This is what it looks like in reality now. It's at a wonderful location on Eland-Zwijnaarden, and we are relocating in May, so it's very busy at the moment. At this moment, inside, not much going on. The first setups have arrived. Let's get a little bit into the meat of what this center is about. If we talk about water, what are we working on? So the idea is to structure research into programs, which you see listed here, but I'll go through them one by one. A first important program for us in water is production of high quality drinking water, from disinfection, from contaminant removal to monitoring quality in real time. We also work on producing secure water for the process industry, new technologies, coupling technologies. I'll give an example later. A third important program is microbial protein, creating new feed and food from side streams, and typically these are water-based side streams. The 5th program develops digital twins. So how can we digitize the water sector? And the final program focuses on electrifying the water sector. And so for such a program, we bring together the Ghent University researchers, but also the researchers each time from other institutes. Collaboration is the model in close consultation with industry. And so here you see a listing of some of our partners, and you see some of the projects that are ongoing, from developing new technology for domestic wastewater treatment to real-time monitoring of drinking water quality. We have constructed a number of mobile facilities that can go on-site with industry to develop new water treatment lines. And all of this is managed, the water line, by Jan Arends. The second line is Plastics-to-Resource. As you know, we have to think much more cyclically about plastics. Also here several programs focusing on mechanical recycling, on thermochemical recycling. So really, what do we do with the plastics as they exist? How can we treat plastics in order to become recyclable? And how can we actually design for recyclability? The chemical design of polymers, making downstream a plastics that can be easier recovered and reused. In this line also quite a few companies that we work with. And an example of a large project is Plasticity, in which together with the city of Ghent, for example, we look at how underutilized plastic waste streams within the city can be made available and how they could be processed. This line is being coordinated by Ilse Christians. And finally, CO2. It's a hot topic to capture CO2 and to create useful products with it. So our focus is not on sequestration, not on putting carbon underground, but rather how can we turn CO2 into a useful product? And for that, there's a logic flow of programs. First, how do you capture CO2 from different sources and separate it to achieve a good quality? Then, can we make methanol as a key intermediary from it is a specific program, or next to methanol can be activated to other C1 or C2 compounds. And finally, how do we turn these small building blocks into high-value products like polymers, links with the plastics line, or like protein, links with the water line? To show a little bit how we work, I think that's always interesting. You may have heard about the large North Sea Metanal project, which hopefully gets approved in June by Europe. In this, we have guided a number of government stakeholders, of companies, to develop a clear analysis of what it would take to produce about 46,000 tons of methanol in the North Sea port, so that's the Ghent port area, starting from CO2 and renewable electricity. And we have done the basic calculations, guided this process, and the overall trajectory around this is that by 2030 we must be at 1 million ton of CO2 saved per year into products. So together with others, we have brought together these stakeholders that you see here, companies that are involved, like ArcelorMittal, Cargill, Engie, power production, then more the logistics companies, the knowledge institutions, and the governments. And it is fantastic to see that this came together into a study that was published also by the city of Ghent. And based on this study, the companies have decided to bring this to the next level. They have designed this plant and are now awaiting the outcome of a subsidy from Europe to start this extremely ambitious project. This will be the largest plant in Europe of its kind. Now, what is our role now further from academia is to think how these processes can be made more economic and what we could do with the methanol. So how can we improve the upstream capture? How can we improve the conversion into the building blocks like methanol? And now a strong focus is what are we going to do with the methanol so we have a high value? Replacement of certain fuels is creating a lot of value, but of course there's even more if you can lock this in polymers or proteins. The business platform with companies around this was started in the last half a year. By now 5 companies have entered into this platform, and it is being coordinated by Barbara Sova. As I mentioned, training is very important, but of course we're not taking over as a center the role of the university. But from Capture, as we bring together all this expertise over Flanders on not just technical aspects, but also legal aspects, economic aspects, societal aspects, why are we doing this? We have a very strong basis to create, for example, online learning platforms, so-called MOOCs. We can participate to lifelong learning, and we can also contribute within the existing programs at the universities to bring circularity more to the fore and make sure that we get the right professionals trained in our area. Communication, finally, is a very important part of getting a good, solid basis with all stakeholders for what we do. And Marjolein van Noppen, who you may know from the podcast Helder, is taking up the role as a communications officer. To finalize the management structure, I take up the role as Chief Technology Officer, but I manage this together with Stijn Ronse, who is the Chief Operations Officer. With that, I hope that I have given you a nice view on what Capture is. It's a very implementation-driven center. It's all about the projects. It's about getting things done. Start from excellent science, translate that science into a pilot, into a product, get the companies on board, get the stakeholders on board, and get it done. We do not want to become a very large organization. We want to become a very effective organization. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions and feedback.